I'm really tired of making these videos about supercars. Nothing about most modern cars is at all interesting to me. But here we are again because I saw something on Instagram and just had to make a video. At least this time I'm really invested in this one because the Holy Trinity is almost back. And as far as supercars go, the original Holy Trinity is about as interesting as you can get, at least in my eyes. However, this time around, I don't think we're going to see quite the same magic. So buckle in for a broke teenager's opinion on why he thinks McLaren and Ferrari fell off. But first, a little history. I remember buying a stack of Road and Track magazines at the library book sale back in the day, and obsessing over the McLaren P1, the Ferrari LaFerrari, and especially the Porsche 918. For some reason, my odd little third grade mind was obsessed with these three hybrids that, in many ways, started the hypercar arms race of today. Before those three, hybrids were reserved exclusively for the granola-eating, Prius-driving folk. But once Ferrari, Porsche, and McLaren realized that hybrid power could be used to compensate for the loss of power between gear shifts, and in the case of the 918, it could be used as a shortcut to an all-wheel drive monster, everyone wanted a super hybrid. Ever since lightning struck about 10 years ago, there have been rumblings of a part 2, and until about a month ago, they seemed as likely to happen as a new Cardi album. And the first car to officially debut was the McLaren W1, which has some really cool technology, especially as far as aerodynamics go. Like, the active rear wing, I think is pretty cool, the way it can really kind of change the dynamics of the car. But I feel like the design is a little bit too busy, especially compared to the P1, which makes sense because the W1 looks and probably drives like the Aston Martin Valkyrie's clingy younger brother. That's especially disappointing given McLaren's track record. Every hypercar they have built has charted bold new territory, and in the P1's case, changed how we look at fast cars forever. The W1 charts some new territory, but looks more like McLaren getting complacent and making something that follows what is hot now. Honestly, the Ferrari is a lot more interesting to me, even though it's very similar in concept. The F80 is pretty much a Le Mans hypercar. Of course, this type of platform has been attempted with the AMG 1, and Glickenhaus has been building Le Mans cars for the street forever. But Ferrari honestly has AMG beat as far as execution goes. The F80 has a V6 that is very similar to the one from the cars that won Le Mans. And while anything other than a V12 and a $3 million Ferrari will be as sacrilegious and going and peeing on Enzo's grave to some Ferrari fans, I honestly think that it was the right choice for a car that's supposed to try and follow the F40 and F50's racing-inspired lineage. However, I would still rather have a LaFerrari because this whole black strip across the nose thing that Ferrari is doing nowadays, which that's a whole other video. A little tangent here. Ferrari stopped looking good when Pininfarina stopped designing Ferrari. I don't know what that says, but anyways, back to the main topic. At least it's not a pure EV, which reminds me of something. Porsche's a bit late to the party. They teased that Mission X concept a while back, which was an all-electric hypercar that I didn't really think looked too shabby, except for its lack of a real engine.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
And now, before you twist my words, I love the Rimac Nevera, but every other EV hypercar is basically a Nevera underneath. And I imagine a Porsche EV would follow that trend. And that's a common issue with all these fancy hypercars. They're similar in almost every way, and that makes them seem a lot less special than they actually are. Ever since Aston figured out how to make the Valkyrie, every other brand has decided they want to do a similar type of stripped-back Le Mans car. And ever since Rimac figured out how to make the Nevera, everyone's doing an EV. And that's how we get cars like the McLaren W1, which are face-meltingly fast, but look like they got shoved in a blender because of that sole focus on speed. There's nothing really there to differentiate them from other McLarens or other Ferraris, or especially other modern hypercars. All the personality that comes with more beautiful supercars is lost beneath the ducts and carbon fiber. Every supercar manufacturer wants to cram as much active aero, hybridization, and computer wizardry as they can to every new supercar, and I seriously doubt that it makes these cars any better to drive. Although, unless somebody is willing to let silly old me drive a F80 or a W1, I'll just have to rely on the word of quote-unquote experts. And maybe there is just a possibility that I'm a bit out of touch with what supercars should be about. I pay way more attention to hot rods and tuner cars, and to me those have way more soul than these modern droids. Even as far as supercars go, there are really much more interesting releases this year. The new HF11 by Oil Stain Lab is a really cool concept for a car that uses a ton of fancy new technology, but still retains a focus on heritage and the driving experience, outside of just setting lap records. And there are other cars that have the same mix of innovation along with a focus on the driving experience. The supercar industry has reached a bit of an inflection point. It's not like cars can really get much faster. Most internal combustion cars are already pushing the envelope of what's possible with 6, 8, or 12 cylinders. And electric cars like the Rimac Nevera are about as fast as you can go on land. So really, that's why the new Holy Trinity just isn't that interesting to me. While the engineering behind them is impressive, they seem like characters of a car like the Aston Valkyrie and are just kind of ugly as well. To be honest, I was a bit harsh on the Pagani Utopia because it makes the W1 look like something I would have drawn in middle school math class and is miles ahead of the W1 in build quality and probably driving experience as well. So in conclusion, I, along with a ton of other car people, seem to be kind of sick of these crazy, robotically fast hypercars, and am way more interested in more raw and unfiltered cars that can provide a more unique experience. Of course, there are exceptions to this, but I feel like the hypercar industry is also kind of shifting to pick up on this new desire. So before I sign off on this one, y'all might be seeing more of me in the next few weeks and months. I mean, I've said that a lot, and it hasn't happened. I had to take a little break for school, but hopefully I can get back to semi-regular videos and maybe even a stream or two. So let me know what you guys want to see.